Muito bom dia a todos, boa tarde daqui de Cabo Verde, nós aqui já estamos no horário do almoço. Aproveito para enviar um abraço enorme da equipa da Direção Nacional de Planeamento, não é? Meu nome é João Tavares, eu sou o diretor do Serviço de Planeamento Estratégico, Monitoramento e Avaliação da Direção de Planeamento do Ministério das Finanças em Cabo Verde. Ora bem, parece-nos incontestável, não é, que a avaliação é uma ferramenta importante no processo de formulação e execução de políticas públicas, sobretudo no contexto em que vivemos atualmente. Mas não sou eu quem vai falar sobre isso, quem vai falar sobre isso é um conjunto de painelistas que nós temos cá e que passo desde logo a apresentá-los, não é? Teremos a intervenção da senhora Gabriela Pérez, não é? A diretora do CLIER América Latina e Caribe. Gabriela Pérez é professora associada do Centro de Pesquisa e Ensino da Economia, tem uma larga experiência em projetos de pesquisa, consultoria para gestão para órgãos governamentais mexicanos e agências multilaterais, foi diretora do Serviço de Avaliação do Conselho Mexicano de Avaliação e subdiretora da Análise Económica da sede SOL. Muito prazer, Gabriela Pérez. De seguida, teremos o senhor João Mário França, que é o diretor-geral do Instituto de Pesquisa e Estratégica Económica do Ceará, não é? Graduado em Engenharia Civil, mestre em Economia pelo curso de pós-graduação em Economia, doutor em Economia pela Escola Brasileira de Economia e de Finanças da Fundação Getúlio Vargas, é professor associado do Departamento de Economia Aplicada da Universidade Federal do Ceará. Temos ainda Pablo Lira, diretor do Instituto Jones dos Santos Neves, do Governo do Espírito Santo, servidor público, possui o professor da Universidade de Vila Velha, na Universidade Federal do Espírito Santo no Instituto Federal de Educação, Ciência e Tecnologia do Espírito Santo. Temos ainda Jan Goldman, que é o assessor em sistemas de avaliação e evidências do CLIER da África Anglófona, foi chefe de avaliação de pesquisa no Departamento de Planeamento, Monitoramento e Avaliação da África do Sul, é comissário e fundador da parceria africana de MNI da Twin MBEL, é professor na Escola Nelson Mandela de Governança Pública da Universidade da Cidade do Cabo e é professor visitante da Universidade de Reading, no Reino Unido. Antes de avançarmos com os panelistas, gostaria de introduzir brevemente, do ponto de vista metodológico, como é que se vai desenrolar o nosso webinar, não é? Antes de mais, para avisar aos participantes que nós temos o serviço de tradução simultânea e que podem ver, digamos, no chat, a equipa vai estar dando instruções de como acessar o serviço de tradução. Nós teremos a primeira intervenção com a Gabriela Pérez, seguido de João Mário, depois o Paulo Lira e depois o Jan Goldman. Cada painelista tem 20 minutos, depois seguimos com o espaço de debate e as pessoas que estão nos assistir através da plataforma podem colocar as questões através da plataforma. A equipa vai estar reunindo as questões que nós vamos, com certeza, aqui responder. Sem mais delongas, eu passaria a palavra à senhora Gabriela Pérez para a sua intervenção. Tenha bondade.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tavares, for the introduction. And good morning to all. It is a pleasure to be here today in this initiative, in this opening of this initiative. So I greet you from Mexico. It's in the morning. It's not yet lunchtime, fortunately for me. So I will talk to you. I will share my screen now. Let me know if you can hear me well and if you see the presentation. Is that okay? Thumbs up? Wonderful. Perfecto. I'm going to talk to you about executive evaluations as this evidence-based tool for decision making. So thank you for organizing this FEGB Clear Lab. Thank you, friends, for giving me this opportunity to be with you today. So let me start by setting the framework of rapid evaluations. So there are different types of rapid evaluations. One type are the qualitative rapid evaluations, and this was initially taken, born or implemented by anthropologists and ethnographers in order to do this analysis they do, describing and understanding the context and the power structures within societies, within communities. But they needed to figure out a quicker way to do this and not take years doing it. So the concept was first born here. There are also executive program or policy evaluations, which we're going to talk about today in more detail. This is what I'm going to describe here. And we also have rapid impact evaluations, which different organizations are working on this more than ever, given the context of COVID and given the nature of information that we have now, that we are able to gather information faster, quicker, using geographical information systems and big data and administrative systems. So this is, there's several initiatives being developed to have rigorous impact evaluations using these types of methods. And these are mostly quasi-experimental evaluations. But I'm going to talk to you today about the executive program or policy evaluations, which constitute a very important aspect of management and how to use evaluations for management purposes, and how these evaluations can help put evidence into policy making. So let me start by talking about public policy. So many years ago, Harold Laswell defined the policy sciences. This was back in the 60s. I'm not going to lecture you as I lecture my students, of course, but this is important to put in the framework of how and why rapid or executive evaluations are important to fit into the public policy cycle. So Laswell differentiated between politics and policy. And of course, politics influences policy, but since then, there are important developments on how we and what tools we use to make policies more effective. An evaluation, it's an important part, a relevant, a fundamental part of this policy process. And the idea is to have better policies through evidence, through policy analysis in which evaluation is fundamental. So in this policy cycle, we have three important aspects or phases that we need to evaluate about programs and policies. We need to look at the design of those policies and programs, if they have a relevant and consistent theory of change, how the program is to achieve the results. We also have the implementation or the processes by which the outputs are produced. So we have to assess the effectiveness and efficiency and economy and quality of those processes. And we need to see if those processes are oriented towards the results that the program or the policy seeks. And of course, we need to evaluate if the program, the intervention of the policy actually results in the outcomes that we established, if those policies solve the problem that made the policy be born. So what makes an evaluation an effective evaluation? And by that I mean that it's influential in the decision-making process. So we need evaluations that are cost-effective, that are independent, that they have a complete view of what they are evaluating, that they are accurate, concrete, informed, and that they are timely, that they reach the decision makers at the time when they need the evidence to make decisions about policy and programs and budgets. So what are executive evaluations? Because we have design evaluations and we have process evaluations and we have results and impact evaluation. So rapid evaluations are a mixed. They use the information and the concepts, the relevant and important concepts of these different types of assessments or evaluations. So let me talk to you about the key elements of executive evaluations. When we talk about executive evaluations, we need to talk about their scope, the methods used to do the evaluations, the data that it's used to analyze, and the use of the evaluations. How do we encourage use? So in the scope, and by scope, I mean the content. So as you saw before, executive evaluations interact or consist of analysis of different elements in the policy making process. So we can have in executive evaluations because they can engage in different scopes or have different scope depending on how they are designed in particular context. But we have that they may include the design logic framework, the indicators, an evaluation of the indicators, an evaluation of the implementation, and results. So, so in the design element of rapid or executive evaluations, we can have an assessment of the diagnostic, of the theory of change, of the log framework, of their components. And in process evaluation, we can have assessments on planning, monitoring, organization, management, coordination. And on impact evaluation, we may revise in rapid evaluations, outputs and outcomes. What about methods? In rapid or executive evaluation of policy and programs, we see that there's a standardized component to it. But this standardization can be adapted to context and scope. And I'm going to talk about standardization and why this is important. They are replicable and you can have comparisons with this methodology that it's used. So, so the use of rapid evaluation, as it has been done in several countries, implies standardized questionnaires or formats that describe and analyze the aspects of the scope of the program that the evaluation is taking on. They are comparable and it is possible to have a synthetic assessment in the elements that include the scope, but also among programs. There's an important element on communication that rapid evaluations have to consider. And rapid evaluations give us the opportunity to continuously develop the frameworks and methodologies by which they are made. Rapid executive evaluations can use the mixed data sources, but documents are more relevant than field work in this type of evaluation. And because there's a need to be cost and time effective. So program records and other analysis or evaluations of programs being evaluated by executive evaluations take the most part of the data or information that it's used. But it can also include, in a lesser amount, interviews or surveys and direct observation or field work. And finally, use. When we develop executive evaluations, we have to be clear for whom and for what those evaluations are being implemented. Decision makers are a key actor because we aim with executive evaluations to bring information and evidence to make decisions, to decide on whether to change a program, to whether interrupt the program, whether to finance it even more because of its results. So decision makers are a fundamental user of these evaluations. We use these evaluations also as an accountability tool, and accountability is very important for our governments. We use evaluations, executive evaluations, to improve programs and to make better budget decisions. So I'm going to give you some examples about executive evaluations being made. We have several at the national level in Latin America and in the US. Mexico, Chile, Colombia, they have been very important actors in the development of executive evaluations. And I'm going to talk, you can look this over in these different organizations that have been in charge of designing and implementing these evaluations. I'm going to talk to you specifically about the case of Mexico. So Mexico, the federal government decided to implement a rapid evaluation that it's called the Consistency and Results Evaluation. And its objective was to have diagnostic analysis on the organization, institutional arrangements and management and the capacity of programs that were designed to effectively get results. So it was to have an overall view of the federal programs that at that time were there in the Mexican federal government. So what type of methodology did the consistency and results evaluation take on? It's an external evaluation, which means that evaluators outside the government were in charge of making these evaluations. It was based on the existing information, documents, and some interviews of public officials. It was an instrument, questionnaire of 100 questions, 80 of which were yes or no binary questions, and 20 were open-ended. And the final part of the evaluation was a SWOT analysis, a strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat analysis that would lead the evaluator to give recommendations for the program. So the scope of this evaluation included its strategic planning, targeting and coverage, process and operation, perception of beneficiaries of programs, results, and impact. Those were the elements that the evaluation included. What were the results in this initial evaluation? The Mexican government implemented 106 evaluations of the same number of programs. So if we had to grade the programs in the overall approach using this evaluation, we had 51 positive aspects and 43 negative aspects on the program. And this is nice to know, but it's not enough. And the importance of rapid evaluation is that they can give us more information. When you see the components and the scope.
Para poder fazer a melhor gestão do seu tempo.
Okay. So I'm almost finished. So you can see the grades of each of the components of the evaluation, and you can know where the problems are, right? So as you see here, defining the target population who was getting the programs had some big issues, big aspects or challenges, and as well as the results, the attainment of results. We can see this by program. I don't know why another one does not appear, but we can see it by program, and we can see where the problems of the programs are, and we can compare programs using the standardized tool and with the different scopes and with the way the evaluations were structured and the instrument was developed. And finally, use. So it was very important for this evaluation to define its users, and it was basically decision makers at the top level and the people that were the implementators of the evaluation. One of the challenges was the quality of recommendations. So there was a lot of work being done in further developments of the methodology, but it was very, very important. It was also important to generate interactions and to set clear rules for the use and to be very, very transparent. Here is the way the utilization framework was made, how the different organizations and agencies in charge of programs were to do the analysis, the classification, how they were going to do institutional programs and plans in order to improve the programs, and this all had to be transparent. Many of the agencies complied with the follow-up process on recommendations, and this was very, very encouraging. Decisions were made with this information in many of the programs that were evaluated. So here I'll leave you because I think my time is up. Some of the challenges that rapid executive evaluations pose and that have to be considered. The quality of the evaluation, of course, so this is why it's very important to develop capacities, appropriation by key stakeholders, planning evaluations with the budget and planning cycles. It is very important to motivate evaluation use through clear rules and process, and very, very important to communicate to other key actors to bring legitimacy to this form of evaluation, because it is very relevant and it brings a lot of evidence in a clear way for decision makers and for other actors in society to learn, to know, to have instruments to make governments accountable, and for public policymakers to have instruments to be able to develop better policies. So with that, I'll leave you. Thank you so much. And I'll leave you some of our social network so you can follow us at ClearLab. Thank you so much.
Obrigada, Gabriela, por partilhar essa experiência do México e fundamentalmente por cumprir escrupulosamente o tempo.